I've been budgeting for over a decade, trying to find the thing that gets me out of the paycheck to paycheck cycle. That's where I was 10 years ago. I was in tens of thousands of dollars of debt. I had no financial goals. I had no clue what was going on with my money. But after trials and tribulations and trying different things, I was able to kind of get out of the paycheck to paycheck cycle. And it's because of budgeting and it's because I tried a lot of things. So in this video, I'll be talking about 5 very solid budgeting options. I like all of them, but I'll be ranking them from my least favorite to my favorite. So, with that said, we'll just jump right into the first one here. Cash money. Can't beat cash. Cash money. So, the real strategy is called cash only budgeting. And as you can imagine, we are basically just going to be using cash for this process. Now, of course, there's going to be situations where you can't use cash, like if you pay electronically for, I don't know, utilities or rent, mortgage, right? There's stuff that maybe you can't like pay cash or even like a check for, depending on the situation, right? So that's understood. So excluding all of those, the idea is kind of it's really good for maybe if you consider yourself a beginner in the budgeting game and you know that maybe you have an overspending problem or you're not quite sure how to even start the budgeting process. And again, it works if you're living paycheck to paycheck. The simple goal of this is just to basically get rid of plastic. So I found this little survey, right? So it's just kind of interesting. I do think it's like this psychological thing, um, where if you have money in your wallet, right? Let's say we have this $100 bill, it's in our wallet. It's easier to give up someone just a piece of plastic than like the thing in our wallet. Cause I think it's this like psychological thing happening in my mind where when we give the card to pay, right? We get the card back and it goes back. So we don't like gain anything or lose anything. When we give someone $100 and they give back $40, it's like, whoa, what the hell, right? So I think that's a small part of it. I think budgeting with only cash in your wallet, like understand maybe, okay, how much money do I need for the week? Like what's going to be groceries and gas and all the random sort of stuff that you can buy with cash. How much do I need? And just try that walking around with it. Um, and yeah, the downsides to it. So again, I think it's good for beginners. The downside to it is it could be like a logistical nightmare. Obviously, like going to the ATM all the time is a pain. Carrying around cash is a pain. Slash, it could be, I don't want to use the word dangerous, but like you never know with people these days, right? So um, even if like I help people with their personal finances. We'll get to that in a little later on. But some people have banks that are not local to them, so they don't have like a branch where they can just go to the ATM like 5 minutes down the street and do the thing, right? So it doesn't always work for everyone, but that's kind of the downside, and it's a bit intense. Like I did this back in the day. This is one of the first ones that I did actually because I didn't have a credit card 10 years ago. So I was just like, let me just like do the cash thing. Let me just like get a real understanding. It makes you like really understand what's going on with your finances because you're seeing it in real life. You're seeing the cash go in your wallet and come out of your wallet and you're seeing the things happen and it's a lot more real than the card, the plastic. So that was just the first one, cash only budgeting. If you're watching this now live or later on, let me know. Have you guys ever tried this? Has it worked? Did it not work for you? I'd love to hear what you say about it. Number 2. So this is my second least favorite budgeting strategy. It's called biweekly budgeting. Now, biweekly budgeting, but sort of think about it on a scale of like when you get paid. So if you get paid, twice a week, every 2 weeks, biweekly. If you get paid weekly, um, think about it as like a weekly strategy. But I'm going to show you this little calendar that I set up here. So the biweekly strategy, it's every time you get paid. So we got to break up our budget into essentially buckets of when we get paid. So you get paid, let's say you get paid the first of the month and you get paid in the 15th of the month, right? The middle of the month, whatever. And So it might be easier if I explain what my wife and I do first, okay? And this has been great because it gives us really small wins. So let me explain. So um, everyone's most expensive item that they have in their life is likely the roof over their head, right? Their mortgage, their rent. So for our case, we have a mortgage, and that comes out around the first of the month. Okay, but we both get paid. We both have 9 to 5 jobs, and we get paid around the first of the month. And what that does is, okay, the mortgage comes out, but the checks go in, and the two checks are higher than the mortgage. Okay, so that's a win. And then we've set up everything else in our life, except for like one random utility that can't use a credit card. We've basically used credit cards for everything else. And I only condone this if like if credit cards are not a problem, this is a good strategy. But if they're not, I mean, if credit cards are a problem, then I wouldn't recommend this for you. But we basically pay everything with credit cards, and then we pay them in the 15th of the month, so the middle of the month when our next two paychecks come in. So all of our other expenses get taken out in the middle of the month. So that's all of our credit cards, which is like all of our day-to-day, week-to-week expenses. We have auto investing, um, things like our daycare, they take credit card. So basically every expense that we have, except for this one utility, comes out in the middle of the month, and then our paychecks go in, and our paychecks are higher than all the other expenses. So this section here, it's a win because our money coming in is higher than going out. And then here, it's another win because our money going in is higher than going out. And then at the end of the month, what you can do is it's like, wow, I have, extra money this month. What can I do? Well, you could put extra money towards the financial goal that you're focusing on right now. It could be saving money, it could be paying off debt, it could be putting money towards a kids thing, a retirement thing, right? Whatever. Everyone's going to be different, which is great. But I think this is just a nice little way to think of breaking up your expenses because personal finance is hard. It's hard. And but so is living paycheck to paycheck. That's hard too. So it's like you could either have it be hard and live paycheck to paycheck, or we could have it be hard and organize our finances a little better, right? And I'm talking to my older self because every time I would think about my finances, it's like, oh, that just sounds like a lot of work. And I just kept going through the grind and not really understanding why my money was gone every time I got paid, right? Smash the like button if you can relate to that. But the organization piece of this is really important. So structuring it in a way where you can kind of break out different chunks. So for us, we use like pay dates instead of having this big like month, and just like there's a lot of pressure in the month to like quote win the month, right? But if you have a bunch of these little small ones along the way, my wife and I found that that's just been really helpful for us. And now we're at a point where every one of these pay periods, we have a win, unless there's like a large unexpected expense. But every pay period, we get a win. So it's um, 24 pay periods a year. So 24 wins are just happen because of how we set up our finances. So it's just something to think about. Number 3 on the list of my least favorite to favorite budgeting strategies is called the 50/30/20 rule. Now, this one I like a lot. I like this a lot. It's a great framework, and I'm going to go over it. So, what this strategy says is okay, 100% of your income, right? We have to allocate it. So, 50% we put it towards need items, 30% we put towards want items, and 20% we put towards a financial goal, which is great. So, it's a nice little idea. It's a nice little thought exercise of how much money should be going where. Now, it's going to be different for everyone, based on where you live, based on a lot of different factors. But at the end of the day, like however much you make, that's still 100% of your income. And then you could still think about allocating the money that way. So if you make $10,000 a year or $1 million a year, everyone can kind of think about this strategy. And I think there's a couple ways that people might fail with this. So let's go over those. The first thing is actually being honest about what a need item is and what a want item is. I think those are like very there's an important distinction. Like you don't we don't need like Netflix, right? We need a roof over our head, we need food, we need electricity, all this like the need stuff. And then you have to kind of ask yourself what a want item is and really kind of divide that line up. So if you were looking at all your expenses for the month, write them all down and then sort of like plot them where they go and you can kind of see. how much everything is. But kind of the other problem that I see, the other challenge that I see a lot when I'm coaching people in their personal finances is people like this strategy overall. But what people are doing is they're using the actual order of this budgeting rule, which it makes sense because that's what it's called, right? 50, 30, 20. What I want people to start thinking about, and this really helped me when I changed this process, is what if we did 50, 20, 30? Huh. Now, what does that do? So the need items are still going to be there, right? We still need a roof no matter what happens in life, and we need the need items. But if you start prioritizing the financial goals, if you start doing 20% of your income towards financial goals, saving money, paying off debt, etc., the goals are going to happen so much faster. I don't have a good percentage or any percentage, but the amount of people that are likely putting 20% of their income towards a financial goal, you would be in like a top tier percentage of people that are doing that. So what it does is, so here's what happens, I think. Let me know if this resonates, okay? You go through the month, and I'm talking from experience, by the way. You go through the month and the needs and wants, you just life happens and you just pay for the stuff that happens in the month. And then you get to the end of the month and you're like, crap, I was supposed to put money in my emergency fund this month. Crap, I was supposed to pay off my debt this month, or put more towards my debt this month. Okay, next month, and then the next month happens, and then the same thing happens. You get busy at work, and the weeks go by, and then it's the end of the month again. You're like, where did all my money go again? Flipping this sort of puts the priority back on your financial goals. So if you pay off your 50% and you automate the 20%, so like if you have money being like taken out of your paycheck, or you have money just taking out of your bank account to pay off your debt, right? And then whatever's left over at the end of the month goes towards the want items, and then you can really start shaving those off because 20% of your income is significant. So it's just like a fun little exercise. Again, the numbers don't have to be exactly 50, 30, 20. If you're 55, 25, 20, it's not a big deal. Or 60, 30, 10, like that would be a fine way to start. Just like it, don't get fixated on the 20 part of it, because I think that's where a lot of people they get stressed, maybe, where it's like, oh wow, 20%. You look at your income, you look at your paycheck, and it's like, wow, I have to you know, give my future self 20% of this paycheck. I can't afford that. If you're doing 0% or 5%, how can you just try to increase it the next month or the next paycheck? So if you're doing zero, like how can we go to 5%? And then just start there. Don't go from 0 to 20. That's very intimidating. And I don't know how like sustainable it is, especially if like you're living this one way, to go for that extreme. So I think small increment steps is really, really important. So go from 0 to 5, see how that works, and then try 5 to 10. That might be kind of tricky, right? And then you just kind of keep increasing, do 10 to 12, do 12 to 15. You get what I'm saying? So don't think you have to go from start to finish right away. Okay. So I mentioned a couple times here that I have a free community, free personal finance community, and I'd love to kind of just talk about that really quickly. And these are the things that I'm talking about in this live stream are things that I talk to people about regularly in here. Think ways to budget, ways to shift your mindset. So this personal finance community, it's called Dollar Discipline University. The link's in the description if you want to check it out. It's a completely free community, and there's a free course in there. But basically, the goal that I have is people that are serious of wanting a change with their finances, with the end goal of paying off their debt, or the end goal of saving more money, um, just kind of building up the personal finance foundation. Now what I'm doing in here is, for every new member that joins, you get a free strategy call, and basically everything's in here. Everything in here is free anyway, so it's not like I'm gonna try and sell you anything. I have nothing to sell you. I literally have nothing to sell you. Sorry. But the people in here that I'm helping, they've gotten some nice wins. So like Daniel, he's been using my tools, and he's been able to free up $1,000 a month for his family just by like using the tools that I have. There's Janine, who, said she worked with 3 other financial people and have never gotten this far. She paid off 1 credit card in just the first month. She had 1 call with me, and then in the next call, she's like, "Yeah, I paid off that credit card that we talked about." I was like, "Wow." And she was living paycheck to paycheck. She didn't think she had the money to be able to do that. Now, it wasn't like a huge credit card, but it was still a big relief for her, where it's like, "Oh, I got rid of a credit card. I didn't even think I would." I was barely making like above minimum payments. Like, how was I able to do this? Right. So it's the stuff that I kind of talk about in this community that is very helpful. So if you're someone that's still watching this live stream, either now or after the fact, one, I appreciate you. Two, smash the like button. Come on, let's get the YouTube algorithm in here. And I forgot what I was saying, but Dollar Discipline University, school.com/debt is the link to it, which is down in the description of this very video. And I hope to see you in there. If you come, let me know that you came through from a live stream. That would be awesome. So we are on the fourth budgeting strategy. So just to recap, we had cash only budgeting, we had bi-weekly budgeting, or whenever you get paid budgeting, um, the 50-30-20 budgeting rule. And now we're going to talk about paying yourself first. And this kind of goes in line with the last one, the 50-30-20. The whole point of this is to pay our future self, right? So every dollar that we pay towards our future, we're pulling it closer and closer together. We're pulling our future closer to us every dollar we put towards our future self. At first, it's going to feel very insignificant, very insignificant. You're going to be pulling what you feel like is like a tooth flosser, right? It's going to be very thin. You're like, do I even have it? Am I grabbing it? And then at the end, it's going to be those like big tug of war ropes, right? Where you're like putting your whole body in, and it's gonna be great. Like the momentum that you're gonna be building is fantastic. But if you're sitting there, and this was me, again, just to be very clear, I'm talking to my older self a lot of times when I say things like this. But when we sit there and we like complain about being in paycheck to paycheck, or just not complaining, but not sure why we're in the paycheck to paycheck cycle, we're like, what is happening? I don't understand. Maybe that means we're just not thinking about any future goals, or the goals that we're thinking about maybe aren't strong enough to kind of keep that carrot dangling out in front of us, right? If you think about, if you're on a treadmill and then you have this carrot, like you just keep trying to grab the carrot, like maybe the carrot isn't big enough, maybe the carrot isn't color that you like, right? I don't know, I'm just saying stupid stuff. But when I was in the paycheck to paycheck cycle, and now looking back at that period, I was realizing that my spending, or the places where I put money, was reactive. It was not proactive. And nowadays everything's proactive. And what I mean by that is, every time I spent money, it's because um I don't know, I had to pay a bill. I had to, I was doing something with friends. It was sort of just like, oh, I'm doing this thing, I have to pay, but I'm not thinking about like a week from now, a month from now, a year from now. It's more just like living in the moment. It's like, oh, okay, yep. Got to go to the grocery store today. Oh, okay, what are we doing for plans this weekend? We got to do this, this, this. And not like, how is any of this, what I'm doing today, going to impact me in 5, 10, 20 years? Because now I'm thinking in decades. Before, I used to think about days, right? So if you don't have goals, or you don't feel like your goals are strong enough, um, actually inside the free community, I made a couple presentations in there just to kind of talk through things that I'm thinking about. And this is one that was kind of important for me to kind of get over the hump. And it's by using this framework called the SMART framework for financial goals. And SMART is an acronym. It stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time. So come up with a list of financial goals that you want to achieve in different time periods. So we could have short-term goals. So we're talking less than a year. We're talking medium-term goals, so 1 to 5 years, and then long-term goals are over 5 years. So if you can come up with one for each of those sections, that you are in great shape. And once you kind of have those, then uh we need to kind of make them more detailed. And here's where the SMART framework comes in. So specific, we want a goal that enters who, what, when, why, and where. Okay, so if you could ask, I'm going to go through an example in a second, but instead of just saying, "Oh, I want to be debt free in 4 years or something," that's not really a like saying I want to be debt free. It's not really that great of a goal. It's a great thought, and we should all think that. But there's no goal. That's not really a goal because there's nothing to attach it to. And as we go through this, that'll make more sense. And measurable, meaning we have to make a goal that it's very obvious that we either hit it, we reach it, or we don't. There's no gray area. So like becoming debt free, yes, there is no gray area there. You either have debt or you don't. But something could be like, oh, I want to pay off more debt this year. It's like, what does that mean? You know what I mean? So we'll go through the example in a second. Achievable. This is within the current resources and capabilities that you currently have, with the caveat of the longer term the goal, the less achievable you want it to feel. So the one that's within 1 year, yeah, we probably want that to feel relatively achievable. And then if you have one in 3 or 4 years, it's like, okay, let's make this a little harder. And then if you have one in 10 years, it's like, let's make something that just seems impossible today. Because if it's too easy in 10 years, again, that carrot's not going to be strong enough for you. But if you make something that's like, wow, how am I going to get there? And then you really rack your brain on like what you have to do and what resources do I need? Oh, do I need to start making more money? Do I need to start changing how I'm spending my, money habits, right? Relevant is next. And it aligns with larger goals, life and financial. So, in most cases, like the goals that you create with these financial goals are going to align to your life goals, financial goals. So just kind of keep that in mind. Where in bonus points, actually, if like the short term goal, the medium term goal, and the long term goal that you write down for this process are all connected in a certain way, because really a long term goal is just 10, 100, 1,000 short term goals kind of merged into one. Because you don't just it's kind of like the I talked about before, like saving, putting 20% of your income away towards a financial goal. You don't just go from 0 to 20 overnight. Most people just don't do that, but you have to make small incremental steps along the way. And then time, we want the goal to have a deadline that creates urgency. So if I go to the end here, so this is like a very detailed goal using the SMART framework. Okay. So in 6 months, my $3,000 credit card debt will be paid off. This means I'll need to average $500 a month towards my debt by being more intentional with my spending. Okay. More specifically, spending way less on things not aligned with this goal. So the time, 6 months, there's actually a couple different time things. Specific, I'm going to pay off my $3,000 credit card debt. Measurable, so I need to average $500 a month payments towards the credit card, right? By being more intentional with my spending. So like being more thoughtful of it and starting to track, right? So it's like, okay, so in 6 months, could I do $500 a month? And it's like, okay, that seems within the realm of achievability. So that's great. And then relevant is like, well, yeah, um, becoming debt free makes it a lot. Paying money to other people will save me money so I can put towards my future self, right? So if I stop paying other people and I start paying my future self, things are going to work out nicely. And that's obviously way better than I want to become debt free, right? So that was just a quick little piece of the presentation from one of the videos in my community. And this is very important because sorry, hold on. Because it's just going to get harder and harder to be able to like save money and do all these things. I have this other chart here that I think is super important. Can you see that? Yeah, that's fine. Just really quick. I'll just kind of talk through it. This This top graph is the personal savings rate in the United States. And the bottom graph is the personal consumption expenditures. So basically, the top graph means the percentage of income that people save over a time horizon. We're starting in 2000 to 20, beginning of 2025, I believe. And then personal consumption is basically just like how much stuff are we buying? And this again goes from 2000 to 2025. Okay. So the savings rate, this is 5% here. So we can pretty much just say that it's relatively, it's basically 5% all the way through. It goes down a little bit, it goes up a little bit, right? But then we look here and this thing happened in 2020, right? And at least in the United States, people were given extra money, and people were buying less things, right? Because we were all stuck at home. So the savings rate shot up to 32% for the month of this is April 2020. And if we look at the personal consumption, it goes up, 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 like very steady, right? And then what happens? Again, 2020, something happens, right? People are buying less stuff. So buying less stuff is correlated to saving more money. So this graph down here is always going to be coming against us. It's always going to be like there's always going to be companies that are marketing their stuff for us to buy it. There's always going to be the nice shiny thing that we want to buy. I mean, look at this. Like it's just going to keep going up and up and up, 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 up. It's always going to keep going up. But throughout time, the savings rate has basically been the same. Except for the blip that we just talked about. So how can we? It's going to be get harder and harder to be able to save more money. So the people that are saving and they're saving it intentionally. The people that are not are thinking about this, like, oh, what's the next thing that we can buy? And I don't like to tell people what to do with their money, but it's just like a fact that saving money is a choice. Putting money towards financial goals is a choice. And this is just kind of a clear sign of it. What happened here in April 2020, where we spent way less, a lot less, we saved a lot more. Now, this isn't everyone, of course. Like, not everyone won during that period, but like, not everyone was able to save during that period. But it just paints a picture of what could happen if we really put our focus to this. Okay. The last and final budgeting strategy is called zero based budgeting. Now, what this means is basically every dollar that comes in to your, bank account every month, so your income, so 100% of your income, we need to think about that as we need to give each one of those dollars that comes in a home. We need to give it a home in our life, in our expenses. Think about it like a concert or a sporting event, right? So when you go to those big stadiums or the big event, the venues, whatever, most of the times you likely go with some sort of ticket that you have an assigned seat for, right? You go in, they check, they're like, oh yeah, E117, you're over there. So you go to E117 and you go sit down, and that's where you sit for the whole time. The same thing works with our money. Imagine the bank account and like a budgeting process that you were to create. Um, Imagine if this process was set up like, okay, this $1, you're going to that E117, this dollar, you're going to A26. And you know where all the money's going. Because if you have ever been to like a sporting event or a concert, and there are not like assigned seats, it's complete chaos, right? Everyone's trying to like go to wherever they want to go, and no one knows, there's no organization. And it's just kind of a fun example to think about. So think about your bank account as the the entry point, and every dollar that walks in already knows where they're sitting, meaning they already know what expense they're going to be, going towards. So if you make, let's just say $5,000 a month, you're like, okay, this amount is for mortgage, groceries, kid stuff, my debt, my savings, right? Like you already know everything. And then you kind of go through the month, you kind of see what happens, and you do your best to match the money to the seat that you're trying to put it in, right? And then the next month comes and you try it again because you probably didn't do it well the first month. And this is me talking from experience again. I've done it for over 10 years. I've been budgeting, and you just don't get it right every month, and you miss things, or there's unexpected things that pop up. And so This is the way to beat it. And if you're watching this, live or after the fact and you got to this point, I really appreciate you. I'd love to know which one of those 5 were your favorites. So again, I'll recap: cash only budgeting, bi-weekly budgeting, 50/30/20 budgeting rule, pay yourself first, and zero-based budgeting. And just a final reminder here for my free money community, free personal finance community, Dollar Discipline University. Okay, I'm helping people build the personal finance foundation. I'm helping people unlearn some maybe money habits that got you in trouble, not in trouble, but stuck. And what I didn't mention is I've also been an accountant, a corporate accountant for over a decade as well. And I'm using my knowledge from being in that professional field and also my knowledge of going through my own personal finance struggles myself and merging them together and creating a community and the free course of how I think I can help people. So if you've liked this live stream, make sure to like the video. Check me out, school.com/debt. And I'm going live every Thursday night, 7:15 p.m. Eastern. So if you wanted to catch me live, then you know where to find me. And I'll see you in the next one.